Steve Sage, I work for L&Q on the construction side of things. I've been asked to give you an update this evening on the delivery of the public open space areas in Northstowe Phase 1. So I will start with the Weston Park. Sorry, there's no slides. Oh, there is a slide there. So we'll start with the Weston Park. We completed the grassed football pitches and rugby pitches in 2018. They've been establishing away there during 2019. We've been tending to them. They've been cut every 2 weeks during the growing season, and they're looking really good. We started the north side of the Weston Park in June 2019. We've completed the sports facilities, so the synthetic turf pitch, the formal Muga and the bowling green, along with all the footpaths and a timber viewing platform out into Kingfisher Pond are complete. The wet weather caught us out, unfortunately, on the seeding of the mini football pitches, the grass football pitches, but we'll pick those up with the seeding of the amenity areas in sort of April, May this time this year, as soon as the sort of ground dries out and we're able to get onto it. Moving on to the planting, so the trees and the shrub planting will start next week. That should finish kind of mid-March time. Certainly we're looking after the completion of the seeding around about sort of April time, is we'll officially open up the footpaths that link Magdalen Close up to just the other side of David Wilson. Formal park area, which is just to the other side of the busway. I'm finding my bearings again here. This is the formal park. We kicked that off in September and October. The wet weather has affected the progress quite severely out there. We're currently a month behind programme. But we do anticipate being able to open up the play areas and the informal Muga and sections of the footpath prior to completion of the seeding areas, which will happen again in sort of May time as soon as the area dries out. But hopefully we can get you access to the informal Muga and the play equipment post-March. We also started a section of the Northern Greenway and Leap 1 just before Christmas. That is due for completion also at the end of March. And again, the area is so wet and saturated at the moment, we're unlikely to be able to deliver the grassed areas, but again, we will intend to open up the footpath leading from David Wilson Homes from Wellington Road out to Pathfinder Way up to the school, hopefully in March time, ahead of finishing the seeding works. So the balance of the public open space areas, which is the Northern Greenway again, which connects Pathfinder out to Linden to the east of the site. There's a leap that's in that Northern Greenway, and then that vast expanse of land out to the east of the site, which is the water park. Again, subject to planning, we're looking to start that in spring this year with completion of that water park and that section of the Northern Greenway by the end of the year. There's about 500 trees and in excess of sort of 4,000 to 5,000 plants, from hedgerows to shrubs to native woodland. So that planting may just kick into the first quarter of 2021. But certainly the open space areas will look a lot different by the end of this year, 2020. Just brief update on footpath works. Linden and Taylor Wimpey along Stirling Road have told us, or advised us, that they've completed or will complete their housing and their service connections by mid-February. So we'll extend from that time. We'll jump on and extend the footpaths up to Eagle Way. That's probably due to complete somewhere around, the end of March, beginning of April. And then we'll plan to drop back and top out all the footpaths from the Linden Show Home area up to Eagle Way at that time. And that's really just a very brief update. I have no...
Okay, so we've got questions, Rosie?
Would you like to go first?
Well, I saw Rosie first, if that's okay, and then Anne-Maria at the back.
Hi there. If I can just ask more or less exactly the same question I asked of your colleague last time then. So,
what was that? Sorry.
Yeah, so,
Tell me, no doubt.
so firstly, little one, assuming the seeding goes ahead in May, when can we expect to walk on the grass?
It really, I mean, this isn't a cop-out, it just totally depends on the climate and the weather conditions that happen, but I
Assume
would
sort of
expect-
normal
I would
British
expect-
weather.
I would expect a month, something
Okay.
like that.
Fine.
Yeah.
And secondly,
And if we can seed before then and the ground is totally saturated, we've had an awful lot of rain
Sure.
since sort of September, we will jump on it sooner.
fine. And also, I mean, so this is the question I asked last time, which is, given that this is massively delayed from what was promised, I forget now what the exact trigger was supposed to be for the completion of the formal parks. It was something like 300 homes, wasn't it? And we're now north of 500 and it's still nowhere near actually walking on the grass. What lessons have you learned, and how are you going to ensure that the delivery of the community space that's currently just a field next to the green doesn't run similarly ridiculously behind schedule?
What answer were you given last time?
Didn't get one, if I'm
Go
honest.
with that one. You didn't get one.
No,
Right,
Stuart didn't have an answer for that question.
Okay, so if I try and anyway deal with the first, what lessons have been learned. Personally, I've learned no lessons from it at all, because ideally we would have liked to have delivered all these. Personally, I don't. Again, I'm not trying to pass the word. I don't have a particular involvement in the lead up to. I deal with the construction side of things. But normally on our developments, these things are delivered certainly in time with the occupations and normally ahead of the occupations. There are lots of reasons of which I'm afraid I don't get involved in, and Stuart, to be honest, would have probably been the best person to answer that. But regards planning, and I'm not pointing any fingers at planning at all. But there's a whole load of processes that go leading up to this, and we were probably, we were behind on that. But there are lots of other involvements, a lot of other stakeholders, that it's not purely down just to L&Q.
What are you going to do differently for the community
Me
space?
personally?
You can't control SCDC or anybody else, but what are L&Q going to do
Again,
differently?
I can't influence what's happened so far on these public open spaces. It will look totally different by the end of this year, I promise you. And your second question was about the community.
Yeah.
I believe, again, this is not my realm, but I believe the community area or the community, the land transfer for the community building is due at 750 occupancies. So we need to make sure that we hit that. And I know that there are discussions in place at the moment with SCDC around delivering and transferring that by the 750 occupancy, which I think, perhaps depending on, we're looking at current sort of build rates, is likely to be sometime sort of spring next year, I would think. I'd be surprised if we build. It's for the transfer of the yes.
750 is for the land transfer, not the completion of the building.
Yes, 750 is for the land transfer, which I think is about 0.2 hectares of that green space that sits behind the local centre. That's due for transfer to SCDC by 750.
Will it be on time?
Yes.
Okay.
I wouldn't say no, would I?
Hello. I'm Maria Brashhall, Parish Councillor for Longstanton and also resident. You just mentioned about the football pitches, the grass
Yes.
football pitches, which have been built 2 metres higher than the residents over in Longstanton. And you talk about planting. What substantial planting are you putting in as the breaker for the noise that is going to be coming across Longstanton from those football pitches? I mean, bear in mind how long it's taken you to actually plant anything. Is there going to be some substantial mature planting put in? Otherwise, I didn't personally sign up, nor did any of the other residents, to be bombarded with football all weekend and every evening. So are you going to be planting mature trees to give us a breaker from the sound?
Well, just answer your first question. I'm not aware that the levels of the football pitches are 2 metres higher than planning, that's for sure.
No, not planning. They've been built 2 metres higher than the ground opposite. So we are 2 metres below them. They've been built up. So obviously when they're starting to be used, we will see the legs of all the football players.
Will you?
That's fingers crossed. But if you're going to be planting shrubs like the A14 about 6 inches high, they're not actually going to be of any good. We need something that's mature going in there, that breaks up the noise, and
Yes, there's tree planting and shrub planting along
Yeah, but is it going to
the
be
western
mature?
boundary.
We're not going to see 6-inch trees going in. It's going
It'll
to take
start off
25
at
years.
just whips 800 mil high, but the trees will be sort of 12 to 14 centimetre girth, which will be about sort of 3 to 3.5 metres high initially.
As they go in,
As they go in, yeah.
and there's going to be a substantial amount there.
Well, when you say substantial, it won't,
it gonna be a
it won't
proper
run
break
along the
across?
whole of the corridor.
It won't.
Not through here. There's sections of planting through here, but I don't believe it runs through the whole of the corridor or the whole of that boundary.
Why? When it's supposed to be a breaker between the two.
Again, this is what's been designed and put through and approved.
And who is responsible for all the ditches? Because they're in a terrible state down there. Are you, when they've
What's
shot all the
wrong with the
planting?
ditches down there?
The ditches are all like swampland. They've not had any work done to them for years.
We've certainly done some work to this ditch down here. And I certainly know that the county council come down and actually clean that ditch out, because we've had to let them in the past, I believe.
Sorry, the ditch running along the back of the school is South Cam's awarded watercourse. I think what Anne-Marie is saying is the ditch that comes down from Northstowe perpendicular is stagnant and overgrown and the water doesn't move. I think that's been
No,
reported
there's
to
water
you.
sitting here because
Yeah.
you can't get away further down, and that's beyond our ownership.
I think
we have
it has,
certainly spoken to the county about that in the past.
it's
Or the
district.
IG, the district, yeah.
Yeah, I think I've
About
actually
doing some work to that,
copied you in.
yeah, because we can't do anything to take that water away, unfortunately.
Sorry.
Hi. So, question about state of the road, especially Stirling Road, cleanliness. It seems that over the last 3 months, you mentioned wet weather. The state of the road is terrible. It seems that the road sweepers' frequency have decreased. So the first question is that the case? And two, what are you doing about the safety of the road, Stirling Road especially? You've just removed speed bumps, which I know that some people didn't like, but that now, and painted crossing for kids, but there's no signage, and already now the zebra crossing is invisible because of the state of the road. So will you be putting up any signs to show the zebra crossing for the kids and to increase safety?
Yeah, I beg to differ, but there are signs out there for warning drivers of the crossing. It says beware children crossing ahead. There are pedestrian crossing point signs at the pedestrian crossing.
I know, but it's being ignored by it's ignored by the people. So obviously what's in place now doesn't work. So it needs to be something done to improve that.
Yeah, well, as you know, we put speed bumps on Stirling Road. That was through consultation with the secondary school in phase 2 and with the county council walking route to school safety officer, I think that's the title. There were complaints from residents in Stirling Road of the noise and the bump from the humps. So again, with consultation with the secondary school, we've removed them and we've installed signage because there is no other option if you don't want the speed bumps. And we've installed lined traffic calming, which is sort of standard traffic calming measures. Again, anecdotally, I don't know that people, as these were only installed today, you're telling me now that people are ignoring it. I don't know. I can't really answer that.
No, they were installed today, and they're already invisible on the road. The marking on the roads are already invisible.
But there really is very little other option, I'm afraid, to try and calm traffic through there. We went through the sort of the hard option, and that wasn't palatable, and I understand the reasons why, residents in Stirling Road. So there is really not many other options with respect to traffic calming. You either kind of divert the traffic vertically to slow them down, and you do it horizontally, and horizontally we looked at that option. There are so many drive crossings, it's just not safe to do that through there. So we've had to come up with the only option we can to try and appease the residents in Stirling Road, as I said, for genuine reasons why they objected to the speed humps. And so that's what we've ended up with. There is signage out there, and I think it's sufficient signage to warn drivers that there is a pedestrian crossing. They're not zebra crossings, they are just pedestrian crossing points. The reason for that we want to try and get children to cross the road at a certain point as opposed to crossing anywhere along that road. So I think we've gone a long way to try and sort of improve, the safety of children using that Stirling Road. So I'm sorry, but I disagree with your comments on that.
Okay,
Cleanliness. We have not decreased the sweeping capacity or sweeping intensity. In fact, we've increased it, and we always do through the winter. Today, I believe it was Taylor Wimpey who were muck shifting off site. They had their own sweeper on, and there were 2 sweepers at times today because I was there, up and down Stirling Road, cleaning Stirling Road.
so Kathy, then Hilary, and then we've got a question online from Richard. Kathy's here.
Hi, a few questions. First of all, I just want to pick up about the community building. I just want assurances from South Cambs District Council that when the land is handed over at 750 dwellings, that something is already in place to make sure that we aren't left without a community building, please.
Thanks, Kathy. Yes, I can give you an assurance that plans are in hand. There are discussions going on between the District Council and the County Council to plan for an interim solution should one be needed ahead of the community building coming forward. And with respect to the design of that community building, again, I can assure you that we are very much intent on involving the community on how that building will look and function.
Who's next?
I think Kathy had more. Sorry, John.
Sorry, behind you.
Hi, and I just wanted to ask about accessibility for Northstowe residents, paths and roadways. The curbs are really very high. People with prams, pushchairs, in wheelchairs or mobility scooters have quite a hard time getting around Northstowe at the moment. Can we please have some more temporary ramps on lots of the pathways onto some of the parking spaces? It's really difficult. And I know we spoke briefly about getting the temporary busway path resurfaced. Can we just talk to the community about that, please?
Yes. We've put lots of temporary ramps in. Perhaps I should... No, okay, so maybe you and I should have a little walk around along... Is it particularly Stirling Road that you're... or just all over? Okay. And again, after we spoke last time, we did put more ramps in. But if that's not sufficient, if you could point out to me where you think we can improve, then I'm happy.
We can't actually get to the school.
Okay, so Kathy, if you have a chat with Stephen offline, if you've got another question.
Okay, and there was another question.
The last question was about lights, particularly on Rampton Drift.
I thought it was
Sorry,
about the
thank you.
routes, the temporary footpath to the guided busway. Did you not say that? Sorry? No. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I did ask
Because
about
we
the
have emailed
temporary.
you that, yeah.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
But I wanted the wider community to know
No,
what
we
what's
will
been
be
agreed.
the footpath went in temporarily. It was on our understanding at the time that the link from the busway up to the guided busway, the footpath and the actual road link or busway link would be completed in quite a short period of time. That hasn't happened due to funding issues, I believe. So the spec of the footpath that we put in temporarily was sufficient for maybe six months to a year. So we will be topping that out because we still don't seem to have a definitive answer regarding the timing of the link, the guided bus route link, the permanent link. So we will top that out. But we're going to tie that in with when we do the formal park works, which will be around about sort of late February, early March time.
Okay, thank you. That might make it a bit easier for some people. And lastly, I just wanted to ask about the lights for people coming from Rampton Drift to the secondary school or to Northstowe itself. I use that route quite a lot myself, and there are no lights. It's quite dark there.
So are you talking about Stirling Road?
Between the secondary school and Rampton Drift.
No, hang on, the Stirling Road has also been vandalised, all the lights have been broken since November, and there's still broken glass in the path, as well as Rampton Drift having no lighting.
Since when? Yeah,
So
correct.
let's just deal with the Rampton Drift
So,
first, and then we'll
Philip
come back
Parker
to the
from
Stirling Road.
Homes England. I'll just answer the question regarding Rampton Drift and the lighting.
at the end of Rampton Drift to Stirling Road. We put in a footpath and combined footpath and cycleway there to enable the school children to get to school. And they can achieve that, okay, no problem. Outside of those hours, we haven't put in any additional lighting yet, but it is part of our planning and it is part of what we're going to be doing. But we've not actually at that moment in time. It's probably a number of months away before that'll get completed. As I say, we put that footpath in to facilitate safe routes for the children to get to school. What was there before, it was a dark path, as it were. It's now a surfaced cycleway, footway for the children to get to school. That's its principal purpose. It will be completed as a functioning greenway with lights and actual play areas and picnic areas along that area when we actually complete the works. But it'll be a number of months before we actually get the lighting along there, because we've ordered bespoke lighting from Finland, which has got timber columns to make it look really good as part of the greenway that we're putting in there. So that's why we've not put lighting in there at the moment. There were some temporary lights at the beginning and end, and they should still be there. As far as I'm aware, they are. A couple of weeks ago, I went by. They were definitely there. I haven't been along there recently, but I'll get that checked out.
And then Michelle's question was on the lights
Yeah,
at Stirling Way,
there's-
the ones, the smashed
You
ones.
mentioned somebody shot them out with a catapult or something by the look of it, or even an air rifle. The lights are still working. We have ordered through our contractor new lenses. It's taken new glass lenses because the bulbs are still okay. So we expect them to be, I don't know, we need to give it 4 to 6 weeks because everything seems to take 4 to 6 weeks with any contractors, I'm afraid. But they are on order with new lenses. We have ordered new lenses.
Thank you.
Hi, I was going to say something, but it's not really a question. But going back to the lights being shot out, I mentioned it ages ago. But when you repair them, and Philip's talking about some nice wooden sort of lights by Rampton Drift, is there a need for some CCTV security? Because you could get those lights mended and they could be shot out again, which is quite disappointing, really. Because, you know, it's quite dark, it's quite lonely there, and I think at the weekends some of the stuff that you guys will be putting in can be quite vulnerable. But on another matter, I'm talking about the footpath, which is running the boundary between Northstowe and Longstanton.
Yep.
I believe that it's officially allowed access for vehicles, and clearly you're going to need vehicle access to plant your trees.
Yes.
I don't know if you know that there is fly tipping down where the trees are by Magdalen Close, where you've put the little paths through the trees.
No, I think
Unless-
Libby, was that when, I think a resident collected some rubbish there and Libby's asked if we could pick that up, which we will do with the planting guys that are due in
Yeah.
this week. Is that the area you're talking about?
Oh, so it's not brilliant, because I was...
Some littering in and around the area, put it there and Libby's asked if we could.
That's good, because it looked as though, you know, maybe a vehicle had sort of got access to that area, and
No.
that was something for you to think about.
No.
Brilliant.
Okay, and then we've got a question from Richard Owen on the Facebook. He's asking for update on progress towards the development, commercial and community land. So if you, the development, commercial land.
community land. The commercial and community land.
So just
Which
the
is
development, the commercial land for now. I think the community land is a similar question to
Yeah,
Rosie's.
the community land, as I say, we are in discussions with SCDC regarding the transfer of that and layouts for the community building and parking area. The commercial land, I don't believe at the current time there's been any progress on that, but it will go in concurrently with the transfer of the land, I believe, for the community building. Again, this is
What's the process for that? What needs to happen?
regards to the retail part of things. Again, this is an area that I don't deal with, but we will look for vendors, for people to come in and put in whether it's a coffee shop or a paper shop, not paper shop, what do they call them now? Like a co-op or something like that. That's at that point when there's enough commercial interest really to do it. But just something on the employment land, I know we are close to doing something with the employment land, which I'm hoping that the next forum will be able to mention in detail.
Okay. Further questions at the back, John?
Hello, just to follow up on the pedestrian crossing points once more.
Yep.
So the ones that are in various places around Northstowe are, I agree with that you say that we want to put pedestrians crossing in particular places. I was wondering why they aren't actually zebra crossings, because if they had the white zigzag lines, if they had the Belisha beacons, and if they had the legal force, I think they would be perhaps more noticed by the drivers.
Well, fundamentally, all the roads leading off Station Road, so Pathfinder Way, Stirling Road, all the main distributor roads, all the roads throughout the house builder developments are private roads. So, we could paint and, for instance, the zebra crossing on Pathfinder Way, which is an actual, or will be an actual traffic ordered zebra crossing, there is not, even though we've painted it as a zebra crossing, there is no actual real enforcement that we could legally carry out if somebody was to park on the zigzags. We would hope, and we don't want anybody to park on the zigzags, but they are private roads, so they're not actually enforceable. It's pretty much the same with speed limits, but obviously you do expect everybody to obey the highway code. But enforceable or legal, it really makes no difference, to be perfectly honest. But because that is going to be a permanent zebra crossing, Belisha Beacon zebra crossing, that's why we've painted like that. All these other ones are just pedestrian crossings.
Okay, we've got, sorry.
That's the thing, you said initially the speed bumps were installed because there was speed limit issue, people were speeding, even though you had the signs. Now you have the same signs saying the same thing, but you removed the speed bumps, and people will still continue to, so maybe the higher signage than just temporary one, just, the A-frame type, maybe a bit higher ones, so they're more noticeable.
Yeah, again, I mean, there are meter size signs. They're massive signs. I mean, nobody can miss them. They're white lettering on red background. If we put any other signage in on the lampposts, they will get missed without a shadow of a doubt. And the only difference now is that the residents in Stirling Road will have a better quality of life, from what I've been told.
If we can move on from that, if you need to speak to Stephen Moore, please speak to him at the end. We've got another question here online. When will Reddington Road and Eagle Way reopen?
Eagle Way is obviously open down to Taylor Wimpey's. The reason we've shut the remainder of Eagle Way and the remainder of Wellington Road is through safety concerns that were raised from David Wilson Homes, where people were trying to access through what is essentially a construction site on three sides of the road. So it's closed through safety reasons. The opening of it is I'm afraid, totally dependent on the progress of the house building with David Wilson Homes, but we will slowly, as David Wilson Homes builds from the north side of Wellington Road south and into Eagle Way, it will slowly open up over the coming 3 to 4 years.
Okay, thank you. In the interest of time, because we've got quite a lot of the other items on the agenda, I'm going to finish Stephen's section here. He will be around, so if you want to grab him at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.